In this video, I'll demonstrate how to configure sequential control using the FlexiSmoke control panel. In this example, I'll use two actuators, one that could operate a window and the other one the external solar shades, which could be mounted on the exterior on top of the window. What I want to ensure is that the window doesn't open more than 20% if the solar shades are down covering the window, and that the solar shades will not go down if the window is more than 20% opened. In other words, I want to make sure that the two won't interfere with each other while operating. This is the actuator that in my example represents the solar shades and runs in plus-minus 24 volt mode. This one is representing the window and runs in MotorLink mode. Each of the actuators are running on its own motor line. I've already configured them to be in the same motor group. Let's run them to see how they work before making the sequential configuration. We see that the two actuators are reacting at the same time. Open and close. No sequential control has been implemented yet. I start the configuration of the sequential control. I access the View All Details menu, Motor Line. I start with the motor line S5X1, which is the motor line operating the solar shades. I select Sequential Control Type and change the setting from None to Open. This means that I want to limit the opening of the solar shades if the window is opened. The sequential control position limit is by default set to closed 0%, which means that the solar shades is limited to stay completely up, that is not covering the window, if the window position is larger than the threshold I'll define. The sequential control is limited by the motor line position, and it is grouped together with the actuator connected at S4X1 that is operating the window. So it's limited by the position of S4X1. The sequential control position logic is less than or equal, which means that solar shades can only open if the window is less than or equal to 20% opened. I'll now configure the S4X1 motor line representing the window. I select the sequential control type and change the default setting from None to Open. This means that I want to limit this window to only open 20% if the solar shades are opened, covering the window. The sequential control is also limited by the position of the motor line, and in this case of motor line number S5X1, which is the solar shades motor line. Again, the sequential control position logic is set to less than or equal, which means that the window can open maximum 20% if the solar shades are opened, and it can open more than 20% if the solar shades are completely closed, and that is not covering the window. Closed 0%. This is the configuration required for sequential control for comfort ventilation. In the case where a window with sequential control is also used for heat and smoke ventilation, there are some parameters which need to be set up, as we then want the window to open even if the screen is opening or limiting the window from opening. Sequential control maximum wait time is set to 30 seconds, meaning that in case of a fire alarm signal, the window will wait for 30 seconds for the solar shades to close, and if it doesn't close after 30 seconds, the window will open anyway and overrule the sequential control configuration I've made. Sequential control only continues after wait if fire is set to yes, meaning if the window is opening due to a fire alarm, we want the window to wait the 30 seconds and then open. If the window, on the other hand, is opening for comfort ventilation, we want it to wait until the shade is closed, even if it has to wait forever. The configuration is now done. Let's test that it works accordingly. I open the shades a little. I try to open the window over 20%, but it stops just before because it detects that the solar shades are opened. In order to be able to open the window more than 20%, I need to completely close the solar shades. When the shades are closed, the window will open to more than 20%. I try to open the solar shades, but it detects that the window is more than 20% opened and the solar shades won't open. I'm closing the window, and we see that the solar shades start running immediately as the window has reached the 20% open position. If I try to open the window now, it will only open to 20%. The sequential control is working according to the configuration I've made.